Well, last of the Rothschild bank hit list. The list is getting smaller and smaller. Back in 2000, there were only 7 countries, and looking at this article, 7 countries without a Rothschild-owned central bank. Afghanistan, Iraq, Sudan, Libya, Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. So, here we go. A few years later, 2003, we're down to 5. Got rid of Iraq, right? Saddam Hussein was gone. And, actually there was a little theory behind that. Saddam Hussein might have been dead before the war actually started. And it might have been his brothers actually running the country. I give a little credence to that theory because the change of policy didn't make sense. Didn't make sense. And the guy they hung at the end in Iraq, supposedly was Saddam Hussein. No way in hell, because, even as an amateur, I looked at him and I saw the teeth were all crooked. Saddam Hussein had perfect teeth. But the point of the story is they got rid of the problem in Iraq, and they installed the Rothschild Central Bank, and they went back to using U.S. dollars for trading oil. And, of course, Afghanistan, we invaded Afghanistan. They changed their central bank, so the list was down to 5. Now, a few years later, in 2011, 2012, it's down to 3 nations. Sudan had their revolutions. And, Shell oil companies in there, and they're always having these freaking problems with the oil pipelines, rebels and stuff. But, sometimes I'm going to give you a little insight on that. I'm pretty sure what the deal is. That's to manipulate the price of oil up and down when they need a story, Sometimes I think the actual rebels are being paid for by the oil companies. They want the price to go up, have an attack on the oil lines. That's in the Sudan. Now, of course, you know what happened in Libya, Colonel Gaddafi basically executed, and Hillary laughed. Ha, 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 ha. So we got 3 countries left. And, I want to point out, of the 3 that's left, Venezuela is not on the list. Because, Hugo Chavez, a lot of people thought he was the major dictator in a way he was, but, there's always the power behind the scenes. I don't think Chavez had anything to do with devaluing the Bolivar in Venezuela several times over the last many years, because I think the central banks are other people that control that, and Chavez, he has nothing to do with it. He basically was a popular leader. Although a communist, I can tell you one thing, he actually took the communism to heart. The guy did good shit too. He actually did. He was he was a thorn in his side to the Western establishment, but he did good things too. I know because he just died recently. He actually did good things. He actually did care about the poor people. But when the Bolivar was devalued, you got to remember that bank was in other hands other than Chavez, and they're not on the list, are they? The last 3 are that are owned by the Rothschild family. It wasn't even Venezuela, wasn't even on the list back here in 2000. So it goes to show you the power behind the throne was the central banks in Venezuela. So the 3 that are left are Cuba, North Korea, and Iran, and you pretty much know what's going to happen there.
We've seen this coming for some time, but it looks like the U.S. is making a move toward Cuba, and it may be sooner than later. They're tying Cuba into Iran, and they're saying now they're assessing a drone threat coming from the area, saying that they've been watching this region for the past 2-3 years, and that Cuba and Iran have been working together along with Russia to get military-grade drones into Cuba, and that they have stashed them across the island. Sounds like the type of info that you would want to drop into the minds of the masses right before you try to engage into a military type of conflict. Axios is reporting all this. Reuters, others are citing it. So they're saying this is credible information, that hundreds of these drones have been acquired. Again, they would be the Shahed type of drone that Iran is known to push and build. And they even say that they have been discussing targeting and hitting U.S. bases in Guantanamo Bay, hitting U.S. military vessels abroad, and even targeting Key West, Florida, which is 90 miles north of Havana. If these things are to be taken seriously, then anyone in southern Florida is in a target zone here in a war, in an open war. Could they launch a wave of drones and hit that area? I'd say so, pretty easily. I'd say that they will be successful in some kind of wave operation right out the gate. And it won't be until then that I think that measures will be taken. And I also think that something like that will serve as a catalyst. It will open the door. It will be kind of like, okay, you guys hit us. Now we're going to pound you out. So it's like the U.S. kind of setting the stage here for something to go down, saying they've got these drones. Now, will Iran use them? Will they provoke them? Well, we had a U.S. vessel go into Cuban waters here not too long ago, and there was a skirmish. The Cuban authorities tried to stop the vessel. Those people fired on the authorities, and there's a big shootout that went down. And there's hostilities big time. Marco Rubio and others saying to the people, even the CIA that is on the ground there right now, they had their head there this past week, and they were telling everyone openly, get rid of your government. Get rid of your government. We won't have a problem. We won't have to sanction you. And they also say we cannot have our adversary operating in our backyard, making this kind of like their playground for problems. So they're going to have to do something with Cuba sooner or later as this war continues on with Iran.